I loved Susan the Banshee. It was really my favorite band, better than the Sex Pistols and all, because it was, the singer, they had a female voice, and I could identify with it better. And I think 1 week before the show, I broke my leg. We went out in the club, and I just overdid it and broke my leg. I was playing drums, so that was a nightmare. But I didn't give up. The girls, like Beate and Bettina, went to the music shop and got me a drum machine, like a Roland 606 something. And in the bed, I was programming. So I got a wheelchair, and they heaved me on stage, and with my drum machine, I could play on top and the drum machine. So I was really happy to play that. So never give up. And that was Neubauten at the beginning. I took Neubauten.
That was before Melody, right?
No, that was after.
After.
We had, I think Dixer was just jealous because we had a band he didn't. And we had this, our rehearsal room was in Dixer's apartment downstairs, so then he asked us to join. Me and Beate joined Neubauten. We played with Neubauten at the very first year. And then...
It was a boy.
Huh?
That was a band led by a boy, correct?
Yeah, he was definitely the leader. And I was not used to that. Because with Maniadi we did it together. And I liked that better. And it was clear that he needed to be the leader too. And I like, it's a good, it was one of my best friends then. So it was fine with me, I didn't mind. I just thought, yeah, but at that time, a lot of bands were there, and we played with him, and we played with them. It was very open, because we never thought of making a career out of it. That was, for a German band, was not the issue. Because we were in England and we were in America, which was ruling the world for pop music, but we were just Germany with nothing. We just did what we wanted, just to entertain ourselves. So we played with
even though bands like Kraftwerk or...
Yeah, but they weren't as big as they are now. They were there, and we loved Can. We tried to go back in the kind of German history and look a little bit what was there. Yeah, we went even Tangerine Dream and stuff, and Faust. So since we didn't want to, there was no record labels or something, German music was Schlager or krautrock, but we didn't want to do krautrock, so we were trying something new.
So the German New Wave, was that a term that was coined by the media or yourself? The new Dutch wave?
Oh, we liked, actually I liked the no-wave stuff from New York very much. And some English band I liked from Brazil, and this more deeper going music. But then some pop stuff.
And what came afterwards?
After Neubauten, this is, for example, this, then the girls from Maniadi were in New York, and we were supposed to play Martin Kippensberger, Martin Kippensberger, maybe you know, it's a pretty famous German artist. And he had an office in Berlin, and he ran a club and stuff. We were supposed to play there, but the others were in New York, so we founded a new band for this event. That was the way. And that's me drumming there. And that was a Geniale Dilettanten show. This is already stuff. That Genius Dilettantes, that was kind of the movement which was, now it's called like that, I think. Because we were not interested in being good musicians. We were just changing instruments all the time and stuff. And that was not, it wasn't a musicianship what was interesting, it was more the artist side, which was interesting for us. Then found malaria. Hey! Then Maniadi split up. Achtung! Kälte regiert die Welt. Bettina and me wanted to continue because we love playing music, we love playing that. Beate went to Düsseldorf and founded with Chris Lars Liaison Dangereuse, and me and Bettina founded Malaria in Berlin. And then we did this first 12-inch at the Christoph Franke studio with the Tangerine studio. This was the first record, the picture that so we both only. And then we formed the band. Like we wanted to play live and we wanted to have a Mädchen orchestra. So we formed the band and tried to do as many gigs as possible. And this was then our manager. We had a manager kind of, and he was doing Factory Germany. And at that time, Joy Division just broke up, and he ordered their first kind of tour, and they asked us to support them. So that was really cool. Yeah. And that was the Malaria just played and played and played. A lot of really good gigs.
And what was that experience?
And then birthday their birthday party with Nick Cave moved to Berlin. We played with them in Washington DC, somebody from Washington DC. We set up a little American tour, and then the guy from Washington DC called me and said, you're not famous enough, but there's this other band who is not famous enough either, because they come from Australia and we come from Germany. So could we maybe do a double bill? And I knew a singer from them, because I worked in a record shop. And I said, I played it to the girls, and they all said, it's okay, let's do it. And that's where we made my birthday party. And then we got really good friends, and then they moved to Berlin, and the story continues.
Did they move to Berlin based on your recommendations to come into Berlin?
Yeah, they came to Berlin and we met, and they liked it very much. Because it was much freer than London. London was kind of very difficult for them. They were ignored because they're Australians. And in Berlin it was an open, big artist community, and they were all friendly, and so they moved to Berlin.
Which is something that still continues to this day. There's still a lot of musicians, artists that keep coming to Berlin.
It's a big move at the moment. A lot of people from all over the world, artists who, they hear Berlin calling, I don't know. Still okay price. Lots of spaces to play.
I met a couple of artists from the Berlin Current and Muting, and they were kind of sad and complaining, saying that it was not the same Berlin, in the last 5 years it had become more gentrified, more expensive.
The city's changing. I mean, it's not the same as in the. Some of my old friends say, why the wall came down? Why couldn't it stay West Berlin? I mean, the cities are changing. And I think one good thing about Berlin is that it's pretty political, always. A lot of active people are there, and they're trying, at the very beginning, when they see a change already, to stop it if it's no good. There's a lot of, a big revolutionary community. I think that's very good, because the people who live in Berlin, they think that they're part of the city, that they are the city. So they really fight for it, mostly. So they're trying to stop the bad things, but I don't know if it's going to be like that forever.
Does that reflect your experience of living in the city as well, to be an active citizen?
Yeah. For example, I'm in the music board now. Berlin has a music board, and I'm in the board. And in this music board, there's one guy who is checking all the new buildings, what they built. It's in English really difficult.
Like the city code.
Yeah, and now they're doing a new, because of him, if you build a new house and there's a club next to it, the club was first, so those who build a new house have to build the sound improvement, which is great, I think. Yeah. And that's, this is the people are like always watching. So Berlin is changing, but and I moved to the countryside anyway. But not half-time, I'm half-time in Berlin, I'm half-time. And then we played in New York at the Studio 54 with Nina Hagen, which was very, because she didn't have a band and she was a friend of ours. And so we were the band for her, which was totally chaotic. But it was fun. This is our first album. That's Valeria Backstage in New York, and we were there very often, we played very often in America. That's another band, Mutabo. That's Documenta. And now, then Malaria kind of, that was end of the 80s. 80s were wonderful, but it kind of, it didn't have any more energy, 86, 87. And then Bettina stayed in New York, and Christina is American anyway. And so we started a new band called Matador. And we started with computers and got our Atari. Worked more on the electronic side.
Why did you decide to use a Spanish name for it? Why did you decide Killer? Or Matador in the sense of the bullfighter?
Yeah, of the bullfighter. Because I'm Taurus.
Okay.
It's Matador album, and that's all right. Now I have to comes to the 90s.
And I guess you jump right from punk to post-punk to electronic music in a way, correct?
No, yeah, because it was the rehearsal room. The rehearsal rooms were extremely expensive. Getting really, they were filthy and like wet, and the way we were working was really complicated because we couldn't remember what we were doing. And then we tried to do new stuff, but we had great ideas, and then we recorded it on cassette, and we listened, but we couldn't replay it. And so we had, the recording studio was a really important part of us. And then came the MIDI and the Atari computer, so that was a really big opportunity for our working system. That's how it started. It wasn't like, oh, now we do electronic. It was just part of the need.
And I guess at that time, that's when electronic music, German electronic music, started to become, I guess, influential. In the middle of the early 90s.
Yeah, but that was, yeah, yeah, but early 90s. Yes, we had the Love Parade and all this, yeah. But I wasn't and then the wall came down, I really forgot. And then, because Berlin was pretty, like the underground scene was pretty kind of gone, depressed, a little black. And then the wall came down, and like suddenly there was a new fresh air in the city, and it was really fantastic. And a lot of new clubs, new music, and so it was exciting. It reminded me a little bit of the beginning of the 80s. I remember Jeff Mills playing at the Tresor, and it was like, wow. It's like really minimal, like just a bass drum, and it was dark, and it was cool.
Did you ever think that German electronic music would come to that point that it will become so influential in the rest of the world?
Is it?
I think so.
Yeah.
At least here in Mexico, I think it is. They even had at one point a Mexican version of the Love Parade, and they used to bring all the like the German artists, Dr. Motte, and Acid Maria, all those guys used to come here and play.
Oh, cool.
But and I guess to me, I think that it's like many Mexicans like myself, we look to German electronic music as that breaking point, like in the 90s.
Yeah.
Because it became like an alternative, to commercial music or to rock music or to grunge, or whatever what was happening.
Yeah, that's right.
And I also am like very surprised that institutions like the Goethe Institute always, are very strong, promoting that culture, to the outside world.
Yeah, but I think they're a very good German artists, because I remember we played in America, it was with the Ocean Club, and they were like the coolest American acts playing at the same evening, and it was like, where are they? Kind of, it's, for us it was a big quality difference, like, or like it was like as if 5 years didn't happen. I think Berlin was pretty extreme in the electronic dance music in the beginning of the 90s. There was no, I mean, Detroit is really famous for it too, but Berlin was more arty kind of at the same time. And because it was all over the city, it was everywhere. So you couldn't escape it even. And it's still there. It's still like really big.
But also, I think that all those icons of German electronic music in the 90s, have become institutions. Unlike the United States, that they have never recognized those innovators that were responsible.
Yeah, in America, I think they left. They really ignored it for a very long time, and now the last years they are accepting electronic music as something which is music. They were totally ignoring it. The market was totally ignoring it. But still a lot of American artists live on the European touring.
So what was your role in that new era of electronic music in Berlin?
I started, I was watching it and going out. I was a night girl always. So, and then my friend had a studio, and I was working a lot in the studio. And there a lot of the musicians came and recorded their records. So I was kind of watching it. And then I thought I was really pretty sick of doing bands. So I thought I'd do a club of my own, the Ocean Club. And I started, but more as a concept for a solo album where I invited a lot of other artists to join in. And that was my solo album, Members of the Ocean Club, with a lot of different people. Mrs. New Orleans, Malaria, we did a bad album. And I did another project with a Canadian called Miasma, it's me and Myra Davis, and she did the lyrics and I did all the music, and that was really kind of emancipating for me as an artist because I was totally responsible for the music and production. That was the first time I did it like all by myself and afterwards I did the Ocean Club album. So I was getting better in producing and stuff. And with Myra we did an opera in Canada, we did a lot of theatre kind of stuff. I still work with her. That's Love Parade, right? And that's my promo shoot for the Ocean Club. This is a video with Blixa for the Sonne. That's the Ocean Club album. That's the actual Ocean Club. And in the Tresor, we had every Sunday night we had Ocean Club with a mermaid. And then later, that's a mermaid. And we did a tour, Ocean Club tour. And that was kind of a good thing because we had a little community of DJs and artists. And we sent the club on tour. And for example, Chica Paula started DJing there and others. And for her, it was always like a really good thing that she was not alone trying to break in a normal techno club, where she would have been much harder and much more like playing what everybody else plays, but she had the space to really do what she liked, because we were there. That's what she told me afterwards. It was really good for her, for the development. That's the Ocean Club. And then we started we got a radio show. The Ocean Club was in London with the Ocean Club. So we traveled with the club. That's just people at the wrist. I work with her. That's another album. And then when we got the radio show, that was 1997. That was a weekly show I do with Thomas Fellman. Did for 10 years, not anymore. But that was like an electronic show. But eclectic, very eclectic. And in the same year, 97, I founded my label, Monica Enterprise. And a lot of new labels started in Berlin. So I think that was a kind of an important year for new music from Berlin. Because not the club, but more the music.
What was the motivation for doing that?
The motivation was that the band The Quarks asked me, because they knew I had, a little overview over the music, and I asked some other bigger labels or other indie labels if they want to release it, but the answer was from they're looking for stadium rock. It was really stadium rock time, and so nobody was interested in different music. And so that's why a lot of labels started, and the Debug started, and Compact started, and Carrera started. A lot of more music, I think. Lots of labels started. Das Quarks, and then we did like the label first was a scene called living room scene, where people played in because Berlin had all these free spaces, and they did little concerts in living rooms. Because there was a club scene, but they didn't do club music, so there was no place to play. So they started playing in living rooms.
Were they actually living rooms or just spaces modeled?
Living rooms.
Okay.
And they got so popular that then we had to close it. Like the people standing on the streets for this living room parties, it got really kind of
Weird.
And then I said, no, this is too much. So
It's starting to look like the line for a club, not for a living room.
yes, it's time for a stage.
I get the sense that
This is a Monica kind of, it was all really nice and kind of different from work. This is our office. This is a promo card. Another promo card. That's a logo. That's an ideas.
and most of the artists in Monica are female, correct?
Yes, 80%. I have some male artists, but mostly female.
Just because they didn't have another place to go, or did you actually?
No, because
wanted
my
to find-
interest. No, it was purely my interest, and then I heard business advice, because I'm not such a great business. I wasn't. Now I'm much better, but I wasn't a very good businesswoman. And then there was this business. I read it in a Wirtschaftsmagazine or something. You have to find your niche. And I thought, oh yeah, my interest is a niche. Great. Yeah, so I did. I wanted to be successful. So.
Did the niche actually exist? What was
Yes, it exists. It's like, it's still, the music industry is very male dominated. Very, very male dominated. We did a counting. I'm a part of Female Pressure. This is a kind of mailing group of female artists, international mailing group of female artists. And we did a counting 2 years ago with in the labels and festivals, female part in it, and it's under 10%. So it's nothing. If you think that it's 50% of the population, it's not enough. And I think it's very, for me, it's very important to hear the female voice in pop music, because why should it, especially if, like in music and in, like if it's instrumental music or with vocals, doesn't matter. When I say voice, it's like, because why, it's about like secret codes and the information in music, like emotional information. And I think it's really important to have the female part in it, to hear that. It's it's kind of a power as well. So I think it's very important. And that's why I did the label. Female power, yes!
Is it still going on, the label?
Yeah. Yes, this label is still going on. And this year is going to be a really busy Monica year because I did stop a little. Where are we now? 2000. Yes. This year I'm going to do a lot of releases. And then I had a chart success. Oh, wait a second. I have to go back. With this Kaltes Klares Wasser remix by Chicks on Speed. And suddenly we got into the German charts. 8 or something. I forgot the number, but under top 10. In the top 10. That was really cool. Because this remix was, everybody said I shouldn't do it because nobody knew Chicks on Speed. But I knew them from the Ocean Club because we were in Munich. We had a residency in Munich, a regular night at the Ultraschall. And I met Chicks on Speed and I thought they were great. And so I wanted them to do a remix. Then my distributor wanted, maybe DJ Hell is more famous. He couldn't get it finished. So I got Barbara Morgenstern for the piece. I didn't want to wait any longer because I thought it was great. And then we did a 10-inch, and my distributor said, "Oh, don't do it. We can't sell a 10-inch." Best sold 10-inch.
In the history of German.
Yeah. So that was a good. Me being stubborn was a good thing.
Always go with your instincts.
Yeah. Not always, but mostly. It mustn't be good. Sometimes it's good. This time it really worked. We did a remix album. This is a Berlin Monica promotion window. This is our little Monica card. This is the Ocean Club album. We went to China, you know, the Ocean Club. Did then in the 0 years, for me it was very a networking century, you know, century. Decade.
Of the new
time
century.
flies.
First decade of the new century.
So we did a lot of big events. Volksbühne asked us to do regular events there. And we did the Compact Night, but Compact was not really famous at the time, but we did a big night with them. And then the Mute Night, label launch for Berlin. And then we thought, oh, let's look into our own city. We have so many labels. I knew that there were many labels. And Berlin wasn't really defined as a music city. And I thought it was really interesting to kind of present, to look what's there, for even, just for me too, and for the others. We did it like with Daniel Meteo and Thomas Fehlmann and me. And so we did this first it was called Bärenmarken, then Marke B, a year big party with Berlin labels where they all even met each other and stuff. We had a label gallery and curated the musical night. That was really good. So and then we went to China with the Ocean Club, very early, but they still were riding the bikes. So did a Market B book. This is a gallery, label gallery. So this was my social decade. Yeah, the CDs we had it with Wire together, and with Debug, they put it in the magazine. So that was, I think it was a good thing. It's Thomas Fehlmann, by the way. Our balcony. And then suddenly the 80s got into the museum. We had a couple of museums made exhibitions about the 80s. That was Ocean Club in Tokyo, a little collage, and the 500th Ocean Club radio show. Yeah. And then came, I was like, I had enough of my social work, and really wanted to go back to the roots. And finally made my first album, first real solo. Thanks. Thanks. And yeah, first I did this Move Me single with a, what's it called, ear. And that was kind of, I was really insecure about it because I didn't do, so I never did this kind of on my own. And then it just worked really well. And people really liked it, and I said, okay, I don't know.
And I guess it made aware of you in a way. Because when I first heard it, I wasn't aware of all the history, behind, of all of that experience that you just, shared with us. But it really made me aware of you, of the label,
Oh, yeah.
I think it was very important.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm happy I did it because I love doing music. I really like doing it. It's that's my favorite part in the whole working thing. Yeah, that was that. That's that, and then I did a little exhibition with the deer. I was on the cover of this museum book. And I did a compilation series for Monica with 4 Women A Cry with 4 women from 4 different countries.
It's really a altruism one of them, right?
Yeah, that's right. Here she's the last one. And that is, we had an opening of the World Electronic Festival where the Teichmann did an opening as well. And that was 7 Women A Cry, so we could invite 7 women from all these countries to present their work. They each had a little stage and played for 10 minutes, and then it got dark, then the next one, and in the end they all played together. It was really good. It's really nice. Great visuals for it as well. Oh, and then I was on the cover of the Wire magazine. That really helped. No, but that was really good, because afterwards I really toured a lot. I never expected that a cover does so.
Especially when the Wire, most of the covers are male oriented.
I think they're trying their best.
Yes, they're trying their best. I wrote them a letter, and I think they are doing more female covers.
Very good. Very good. This is just touring everywhere, China, Australia, blah, Komiki, Sarajevo, blah, blah, blah. That was 2000. And
On to the next decade.
Tens. Since I'm a person who really likes to work with other people, and after the solo album, I couldn't do another solo album, but I wanted to collaborate. And I met, oops, it's running, Antje Greyer, Fuchs, she was called then, AGF, I met in Moscow on a festival we played together, and I knew her from Kitty Yo and Laub and Berlin and blah. And we really got on, and then we decided to do a project together because she had an invitation from BBC to do like a 20-minute kind of thing with a collaborator, and they suggested a man, but she wanted to do it with me. And then we started, and it worked really well. She's really really good in tech. And then we did a whole album out of it. I went to Finland, I played in Finland Flow Festival, and afterwards I went to her island in Finland, and we recorded the album Baustelle for promo shoot. And then we did a show, tour, and I had a Vogue session. I had to put that in there. That was so big. And then we did the reconstruction album, Istanbul, blah. We did Paradies, this thing with Sonja Bender, and she did the visuals. We did a night in Berlin with a Turkish-German night. And for that night, me and Matador, with my band Matador, reunited and played like a 20-minute song. That was really nice. So I played in a band again. And we are still very good friends, and we want to continue. What's that? I got a golden axe. That's a prize from the German Independent Society. This is an axe. What is an axe?
Matcha.
Yes. Yeah. Golden axe. now we do, then we moved to the countryside. We had this country, I was like city sick, and we bought a house in the countryside, and there we do this festival for literature, film, not film, art and music. And we do the music part. I'm always busy. And this is the countryside. And then there we do apple juice. And I did a new album.
Now I understand why it's called wildlife.
Yeah. I experienced like a new love.
For nature.
Kind of, yeah. I thought for me it gave something really new, and I wanted to share it. So that's why I did this album. Wildlife, that's it. And this video, garden. And then we did this big female pressure we already talked about. We did the counting. This is like, do you see the female male counting? This is how it is.
That's a great infographic.
Yeah. And we did it like 2 years ago for the 8th of March, International Women's Day. Did a press release and everything. It was cool. And then we did a festival. Now we're going to do a yearly festival. But I'm not in the festival crew. I had enough. But the first one I was in the curating team. And now they have a yearly female pressure festival in Berlin. And some radio shows in Hamburg and Vienna and some other cities. So they're working it. Pussy Riot Freedom Compilation. And then I met a guy actually when I played with Antje in London at the Queen Elizabeth Hall at this festival. And I met Jochen Irmler, who played with Tobacco Road, which is really strange because I think Tobacco Road was supposed to play here at the festival.
Yes.
But they split up.
They split up.
And now we come in. We met at the festival in London, and I thought he was really funny. I really liked him. And he played a great organ. And then he invited me to play at the Klangbad Festival, which he organizes. And maybe, Jochen, you can join in now? And at the Klangbad Festival, he was nice again. And he was just a really good, crazy organ player, kind of non-stop. He built his own organ, like in the 70s or when?
Yeah, 67.
And still has it. A little bit expanded. He had so much overweight. Anyway, we did. I met him and I asked him, "Shall we work together?" And then he said, "Oh, why not?" And then we started to work together, and we did an album together at the Faust studio. And this is the Faust studio. This is his studio. He's from Faust, so the krautrock thing coming in. And the improv, that's something I was interested in too, because he's a really good improv person, where I'm always scared of him. So I'm more the structure person, but I think it's a good combination. And it's really fun to work with him. And we kind of have the same attitude a lot of times. Not always, but
so the performance.
Not about Mexican food, but this is the album, and this is we're gonna perform together.
So how different it will be from constructing the album to playing it live, or is it totally different?
It's no, we play the tracks, and we still don't know if we play 30 minutes or 50 minutes. If we have more time, we can meander. But if it's a short set, we race through it.
No sé si alguien tenga alguna pregunta para Gudrun. If anyone has a question, that would be a great time to do it. Of course.
Hello, Gudrun.
Thanks for the present.
tell us about your ultimate impression about the Berlinale, the documentary premiere.
You mean the B-movie? B-movie, yeah. There's a new movie out which was premiered at the Berlinale called B-movie, and it's a documentary about Berlin in the 80s. It's not a documentary, it's really kind of a film, because it's really kind of entertaining. And they licensed a couple of malaria footage and tracks, and the whole movie is documentary material with a lot of, I'm in it, two Blixers in it. But the good thing is, I think, that Mark Reeder, who lived, an English guy with an English humor, who lived a long time in Berlin, like still lives in Berlin, he loves Berlin. He guides through the whole movie. Like, because he did a lot of BBC interviews, like features for English TV about Berlin, and he kept it all. He has a lot of it. And so you see, it's kind of really, it's really, I think it's a really good movie. I think it's really entertaining, and I was shocked to see all this footage from Berlin, because it looks so different now. It was really kaput. It was very grey, and it's not anymore. It's really changed.
So more than a documentary, it's like a great entertainment piece.
I think you should really try to watch it. I think it's really, if you're interested in the history of Berlin, I think it's really good. It's good.
¿Alguna otra pregunta para Gudrun? Bueno, me están diciendo que we have to stop, we have to finish. But muchas gracias por venir a México.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Y bueno, que estará tocando el domingo con Festival NRMAL. Los esperamos. Vamos a descansar unos 5 minutos. Tenemos otra plática con Jens Benonius, de Chain and the Gang, que también van a estar mañana en el Festival NRMAL. Entonces, pues aquí los espero, ¿no? Vamos a darnos un pequeño receso, 5 minutos.